Public Policy Project, LGBTQ same-sex marriage case. Before this law was passed, there were about 390,000 same-sex marriages in the United States. This number reached approximately 500,000 after this case was over. This data is not 100% accurate because there were couples that were married but not legally because of the state they lived in. This policy was much needed in the country due to the large number of LGBTQ couples in the United States. After getting married in Maryland, James Obergefell and John Arthur requested a marriage license in the state of Ohio, but the state did not recognize their marriage. Following this, they sued the state for discriminating against same-sex couples who have married lawfully out of state. An Ohio registrar said it was unconstitutional to deny them the right to be married legally, but the Attorney General's office decided to defend their ban of the same-sex marriage. After the final decisions of Obergefell and Hodges were made, the Supreme Court removed parts of the Defense of Marriage Act, which was put in place to make marriage legal between a man and a woman. The vote was a 5-4 decision, and Justice Anthony Kennedy had the swing vote for the case. Justice Kennedy stated that they asked for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Antonin Scalia, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito voted against the passing of the policy. Roberts stated that the decision was disheartening and that it had nothing to do with the Constitution. Justice Scalia said that the decision broke a principle that is more fundamental than no taxation without representation. If the Supreme Court would have ruled in favor of Hodges, ruling that denying Obergefell a marriage license was constitutional, the Supreme Court would have never thought about removing parts of the Defense of Marriage Act because it wouldn't have been relevant. The goals of the same-sex marriage policy is to allow same-sex couples to legally receive a marriage license under federal law. Before this policy was passed, a large number of LGBTQ couples in the United States wanted to get married but were unable to because it was not legal in most states. With this policy, LGBTQ couples are able to get married in all 50 states. This policy would be enforced if a state was to violate it. For example, if an LGBTQ couple requested a marriage license and the state were to deny them of it, the couple would most likely sue in federal court and receive compensation. The federal government could also sue the state for violating the same-sex marriage policy. The policy faces more obstacles than most because there are many factors that can determine whether one supports it or does not support it. The obstacle with the best ability to make change is the three branches of government. With the judicial branch, each justice in the court has their own beliefs, which impacts the way they decide. In this case, if a judge is against same-sex marriage, they will not vote in favor of it, and vice versa. As for the executive branch, the president at the time of this case was in favor of same-sex marriage, but his beliefs don't always have a strong impact when it comes to other branches of government. Lastly, the legislative branch has large impact on bills passed and has the ability to change jurisdictions. Similar to the Supreme Court, members of the legislative branch can vote in a way that matches their beliefs. One obstacle is religion. Most religions have beliefs that marriage should only be between a man and a woman. The majority of the United States population is Christian, therefore a large number of people believe that marriage is only to be shared between a man and a woman. This is by far the biggest obstacle that this policy has to overcome. Another obstacle is traditional beliefs that are in families. The majority of the time, children gain their beliefs by what their family believes. If a family believes that marriage should be between a man and a woman, the cycle continues to pass through families until someone breaks the cycle. These obstacles influence the creation of this policy because many of the members in the United States Congress are Christian and have beliefs that are against same-sex marriage. As mentioned before, many people in the United States believe that marriage should only be between a man and a woman, so it is very common to meet people that are against same-sex marriage. On the other hand, many people support same-sex marriage. Therefore, this is a fine line between people who support it and people who do not. Since 2001, the percentage of people that oppose same-sex marriage went from 57% to 32% in 2017. Over the years, public opinion has not changed much. What has changed is the number of people who support it and who don't support it. One thing that has changed is that people seem to dislike homosexuals even more that are very open and androgynous when it comes to their sexuality. The media played a vital role in influencing same-sex marriage policy. Since most people gain information through the media, what we know is usually what we see or hear. Information about the court case was released to the media, which became the most common way to find out about this case. The way this issue is portrayed is solely based off the beliefs of the new organization. For example, Fox News, which is a more conservative company, has very superficial information about this policy, whereas MSNBC, a Democratic company, has more emotion in the information and gives more details about same-sex marriage policies. Another shift in the media is the increased number of LGBTQ characters in TV shows and movies. A lot of TV networks have LGBTQ characters to show their support and acceptance of them. Interest groups can sway a Congress member's decision about any policy. For this policy in particular, there are groups that support same-sex marriage, such as the Equality PAC, which donated $200,000, and there are interest groups that do not support same-sex marriage, such as Mitt Romney's PAC that donated $10,000 to the National Organization of Marriage during a time when they were trying to repeal the law in California that was in favor of same-sex marriage. Interest groups use money to influence members in Congress, and if a Congress member receives an offer from an interest group that supports same-sex marriage, he can choose to vote based on beliefs of that interest group. Mitt Romney's PAC is not doing much now because he never became president, but he still participates in its political events and makes statements regarding certain political policies. The Equal PAC still donates to the LGBTQ rights groups and representatives in order to make an LGBTQ-friendly change. The benefit of this policy is that it allows same-sex couples to make their marriage legal, which makes marriage rights equal for all people. Legal marriage is more than just a document. Taxes is a huge part of adults' lives, and as a legal couple, you can file for joint income tax returns, as well as creating a family partnership under federal law. You can also receive Social Security, Medicare, and disability benefits for spouses. As a legal couple, you can receive benefits from your spouse's work. These are just a few of the many rights given when legally married. A cost of this policy is that people in religious groups live in a country where people are legally going against their beliefs. This might cause them to be angry with the government, which creates defiance. This policy is extremely effective because it allows same-sex couples to be legally married. Unfortunately, this policy does not solve all problems regarding LGBTQ people. Although same-sex marriage is legal in every state, there are some states where it is illegal for same-sex couple to adopt a child. Another obstacle that LGBTQ couples are faced with is discrimination. In fact, there is a Supreme Court case set for this summer that will determine if a baker was just for denying a cake to a same-sex couple in Colorado. Is it his freedom of speech or discrimination? We will have to see. A potential consequence for this policy is that it forces business owners to serve LGBTQ citizens, particularly companies that cater and have part in weddings. This could be seen as a consequence for many, but in reality it creates more business and a monetary gain. Another consequence is that parents can't use their children as a cultural war weapon because children tend to be more fair-minded. Unfortunately, parents are not likely to listen to their children when it comes to their beliefs, so fair-minded children do not create fair-minded parents. A potential reform for this policy would ultimately be to remove it. As a supporter of same-sex marriage, we believe there is no reason to make any reforms to this policy. The Supreme Court decision certainly made history for the equal rights movement, but there is still a large amount of change that needs to be made. Same-sex couples still face major issues such as not being able to adopt a child in some states in the United States. Another issue that same-sex couples face is discrimination when trying to plan weddings, such as being denied the right to book the marriage for a certain venue, getting wedding cakes made, and ordering food for the wedding.